When the HOA board tried to bully me into paying fees for a neighborhood I didn't even belong to, I told them flat out, "I'm not under your HOA." They called the cops to intimidate me. But when the officers arrived and saluted me, their faces turned ghost white. After years of city chaos, I finally bought a peaceful property on the edge of town, a small ranch-style house surrounded by open fields, just far enough from the suburban sprawl to enjoy quiet mornings. The realtor had been clear. No HOA. That was one of my top requirements. I'd had enough of rule-obsessed neighborhood committees dictating mailbox colors and lawn height. For the first 2 months, life was perfect. Until the day I met the Maple Ridge Community Board. It was a Saturday afternoon when 3 people, clipboards in hand, marched up my driveway. The leader, a woman in her late 40s with sharp lipstick and a sharper tone, called out, "Excuse me, sir, you haven't paid your quarterly HOA dues." I blinked. "My what?" "Your HOA fees," she repeated. $350. We mailed your notice 2 weeks ago." I stared at her. "Ma'am, I think you've got the wrong person. This property isn't part of any HOA," she raised a brow. "Oh, it's part of Maple Ridge Estates. We expanded last year to include your road. That was news to me, and also illegal." My property deed clearly stated it was outside of Maple Ridge jurisdiction. I folded my arms. "I didn't sign anything. You can't just expand your HOA onto private land." Her face hardened. "Everyone on this street pays. You'll get fined if you refuse." "Fined by who?" I asked calmly. "You don't have authority here." Her name tag read Linda Perkins, HOA President. She looked ready to explode. "I suggest you read the bylaws, mister." "I've read my deed," I cut in, "and it says no HOA applies to this property. So take me off your list," she huffed, turned on her heel and stormed off, muttering, "We'll see about that." That evening, I checked the county website. Sure enough, no updated HOA boundaries had been approved. I printed everything, the legal maps, the zoning records, the HOA's current charter. I thought it was over, but that was only the beginning. 2 days later, I woke up to a bright yellow violation notice taped to my door. Non-compliant fencing, HOA fine, $250. Then another, unapproved vehicle on driveway. Then another, improper trash bin placement. They were trying to harass me into submission. I decided it was time to hit back. A week later, I was mowing my lawn when 3 HOA board members showed up again, this time with cameras. Linda stood at the front, her red lipstick glinting like a warning light. "Sir, you've been repeatedly fined and refused to comply," she said. "We're escalating this. Either pay your dues or face legal action." I turned off my mower and smiled. "Legal action for what?" "You don't have jurisdiction here," she jabbed a finger at me. "Every home in this area is under HOA rules." I pointed at my deed, laminated in a folder on my porch. "This is county property, not HOA managed. You can't change boundaries without county approval." Her voice rose. "We'll call the police then." "You can explain it to them," I shrugged. "Go ahead." She whipped out her phone, clearly expecting me to panic. The other 2 board members whispered behind her like gossipy backup dancers. "Hello. Yes, this is Linda Perkins, HOA President of Maple Ridge. We have a non-compliant resident refusing to cooperate. He's being aggressive." Aggressive? I hadn't moved an inch. "Please send officers immediately," she said, glaring at me with smug satisfaction. "You're going to regret this." I just leaned on my mower, waiting. 15 minutes later, a black SUV rolled up. Not a police cruiser, but something more official looking. 2 uniformed men stepped out, calm, professional, hand on belts. Linda's smirk grew. "Finally! Officers, this man," but she stopped mid-sentence when one of the men nodded at me and said, "Afternoon, Captain." Linda blinked. "Key Captain?" I smiled. "Afternoon, gentlemen." The HOA board froze. See, before I retired, I'd served 20 years in law enforcement, and after stepping down, I was hired as a private security consultant. The men she called weren't city cops. They were part of my own private response team, on contract with the county for community patrol support. I looked back at Linda. "You wanted to call the cops?" "Well, here they are." "My team." Her jaw dropped. What do you mean your team?" I gestured calmly. "They're employed through my firm. I coordinate their deployment for this district." The officers gave polite nods. "Everything all right here, sir?" "Just a misunderstanding," I said. These folks seem to think they can enforce HOA rules on non-HOA land. The taller officer turned to Linda. Ma'am, do you have documentation proving jurisdiction? Linda's confidence cracked. Well, not on me, but... Then you're trespassing, he said bluntly. We'll have to ask you to leave this property. She looked at me, furious. This isn't over. Oh, it's definitely over, I said, smiling as she stormed off. Once they were gone, my men chuckled. Didn't think we'd be called by your fans, one said. I laughed. They wanted cops. They got them, but I wasn't done yet. Linda needed to learn that harassing homeowners wasn't just annoying, it was illegal. That night, I compiled everything. The fake fines, the false boundary claims, the trespassing incidents, and the call recordings thanks to my driveway cameras. I filed a formal complaint to the county housing department and state attorney's office, and I copied every board member's email in the notice. 2 weeks later, the county called a hearing. I attended with my documentation neatly organized. Linda and her HOA board showed up too, trying to look composed, but clearly sweating bullets. The county officer began, Mr. Walker, you claim the HOA has unlawfully extended jurisdiction over private property. Is that correct? Yes, I replied. Here are the boundary records and county approval dates. As you can see, my land is outside HOA territory. He examined them and nodded, clear as day. Then he turned to Linda. Mrs. Perkins, can you provide any official documentation approving this expansion? She fumbled with her papers. We, filed for an extension last year. Filed, the officer repeated, but not approved. You cannot enforce HOA policy on unincorporated land. That's a violation of state housing law. The room went dead silent. He continued. Additionally, your board's repeated notices and visits constitute harassment. The county will be issuing a cease and desist, and you may face fines for falsifying jurisdictional claims. Linda looked at me with venom, but all I did was smile politely. When the hearing ended, she approached me in the hallway. You embarrassed me, she hissed. No, I said evenly. You did that to yourself. She stomped off, muttering that she'd get back at me. But instead, the HOA board received a full audit. Within a month, Linda was removed from her position. Turns out she'd been misusing HOA funds, buying decorations that were really home upgrades for herself. The county fined the board thousands. The community elected new members who swore to stay within their boundaries, literally and legally. As for me, life went back to quiet. My private security team still did rounds, but mostly to wave at neighbors and keep an eye on things. One day, the new HOA president, a young, polite guy, stopped by. Mr. Walker just wanted to say, you handled that like a pro. You really showed them, I smiled. Just doing what's right, he laughed. Linda's still trying to claim she was tricked, I shrugged. She called the cops on herself. Can't help that. Now my mornings are peaceful again. No fines, no flyers, no clipboard warriors pacing my driveway. Sometimes, when I sip my coffee on the porch, I think about how close they came to bullying me, and how poetic it was when they learned who I really was. Because the truth is simple. Never mess with someone who knows the law and employs the law.